What's going on, Junes? Welcome to Tabletop Cyberpunk. My name is JonJonTheWise, and I have a guest with me. This guest makes amazing YouTube content, whether they're shorts or other forms. Great Cyberpunk Red content for game masters and players alike. I have none other than Dice with me. Do you go by Dice or DiceTTRPG?
Dice works fine. There's a podcast called DiceTTRPG, and I try to not step on their toes.
Gotcha. And he is Sans webcam because, well, what did you say? I forgot exactly why you said you didn't have a webcam.
I actually gave my web camera to a friend of mine who was wanting to get started in streaming, and I gave it to him right before, the world got a little crazy, and I just let him keep it. I've just never had a reason to get a cam since then.
Yeah. It's a relic of the past, okay? We've moved on. You've gone beyond the cam.
I now exist only in voice form.
Yeah, I mean, as always, when I see other content creators out there, especially Cyberpunk Red content creators, I always like hooking up with them. And I got to say, after I saw your content, I understood why the folks in the community like you so much, is because your content is really, really good. That short form and explanatory, and you got a voice made for this, dude.
That's very humbling to hear. Thank you. You're gonna make me bashful here, mate. If there's one thing I was trying to do is just reach out to folks and way to make me shy right off the bat. Thank you.
That's what I do. I make my guests uncomfortable off the bat, just so the vibe of the entire podcast is terrible. So that's what I like to do.
Perfect. We got to hit that awkward tone. If it's not awkward, it's not a real podcast.
Yeah, we start with "I love you, man." All right. Stop making me feel feelings.
Yeah, stop it. I'm supposed to be here calm, cool, and collected. That's why I spent all day panicking.
Yeah. So tell me, we got to hear this origin story. Where did you get into tabletop gaming? How did you come upon Cyberpunk up till today? Give us that timeline.
Okay. I'll actually start. I'll bridge the very beginning because it's going to take way too long to do. The first time I ever delved into anything remotely tabletop was actually the old and Neverwinter Nights series. It's the first time I even had anything touch with me when it comes to like Dungeons and Dragons or anything. Didn't even know it was D&D back then. I played a single game of 3.5 and then did nothing until 4th edition of D&D. Now, this is going to sound strange to explain. A friend of mine ran a local game store about 60 miles north. And I used to go there just to play Halo and stuff like that.
You would go 60 miles to play Halo?
I'm in an extremely rural location, okay?
Okay.
You don't have much choices. The closest game store to me right now is over 60 miles away still. It's just south now, not north.
Dude, that's wild.
It's painful. I miss where I used to live. I had one right down the road. Now I'm back here where I grew up. And I want to go back. I want to go back so bad. But I'd go up there, and I showed up, was going to do my normal Saturday stuff. And my bud Eric, he was like, I got a problem. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, all right, I have to host this tournament for Smash Brothers. I don't have anyone to replace me. And I promised these guys that I would run 4th edition for them D&D. Do you know Dungeons and Dragons? And I'm like, no. He goes, great. Here's the book. And he
wanted you to run the game?
Yeah. He literally just wanted me to run the game on the spot, no experience. He handed me a bunch of little things, slapped me behind a DM screen, handed me a Draco Lich. I remember that thing vividly. And he goes, all right, just try to kill him. That's all he told me to do.
I was like, man, this is a pretty bad game master. And then you said that.
I just kind of stared and I'm like, oh boy. And I attempted to run it. I don't think it ended well. I think I blocked it out from my mind. From then on, didn't really do much else with that. And this might get a little bit long, but it won't be too bad. 5th edition, the one that everyone got swept up in. Back in 2017, I had a friend of mine who was streaming on Twitch, and he decided to start up an actual play. And he asked me, he's like, hey, I may do a second group. Are you down? Because for a brief period, I did YouTube for maybe 2 years between 2015 and 2017, then stopped back then.
Okay.
I was down for it. I hopped in. He introduced me to everybody. And he said the words that I will never forget: treat this like a job. So I will spare you
Oh
that
no,
horror
dude.
story. I have I have an RPG horror story right off the bat,
Oh
but
my god.
it ended in disaster. Every bad thing you can think about happened. It kind of set the precedent. After that, I fell in with a West Marches Discord, had a ball. Of course, Critical Role fan for the first campaign. Met a lot of good friends from that. I'm not going to share the other parts about it, but yeah, after that, played on and off until about 2019, and work got in the way. Quit playing. Everyone just kind of seemed to fight each other a lot all the time whenever I was looking at anything D&D online. So it just kind of made me go, I got more things to do. And 2077 rolls around. Now, the girl that I was dating at the time, she was obsessed with it. Here's the shocker. I couldn't care less. I didn't want to play the game. I was not caught up in the hype. I did not want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Because I had been stung by No Man's Sky way back when.
Dude, we have the same origin story.
Yep. I was one of those streamers who was really putting too many eggs in the basket of No Man's Sky.
Are you me? I was like, my stream is going to be a No Man's Sky stream.
Yes.
I gave away 2 copies of the game, paid 120 bucks. 120 bucks.
Oh, no. I think I had the highest, like, this is going to show some history here. This is YouTube had a gaming platform before the current iteration of YouTube Live. It was called YouTube Gaming. And I was the biggest on there for the first opening day. And back then, that was not really a bragging right. It was only like, it was barely 100. Because no one ever watched
Number
YouTube
one
gaming.
is number one, all right?
Well, all it was just me being disappointed and just being so let down. But to get back on topic with it, we'll talk No Man's Sky another time. That game is nowadays. Anyway,
I like it nowadays. I mean, we can have conjecture. Really no, they definitely made up for all the stuff that's happened. Now it's like, man, they're making more stuff every month. It's like more stuff.
Yeah, No Man's Sky will forever be the best story in gaming to me because you had that start and you turned it into what it is now. Gorgeous.
Yeah, they won awards and stuff. It's great.
The thing about 2077 is I got pressured into playing it. I did not want to play it. I didn't even initially buy it. My roommate had it on Good Old Games, and he goes, I'll let you play it for a couple hours. You tell me what you think. I'm like, okay. I geared it up. Same time, girlfriend calls. She's like, all right, I want to hear your opinion. And I'm like, why is she trying to push me to play this game so much? I start playing, and the words come out of my mouth. Wow, this is a little bit like tabletop games. And it sunk a hook in me, and I ended up finishing the entire game.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I'm with you on not being on the hype train. I got off the hype train really early. As soon as I think the breaking point for me was when they were winning a bunch of awards and the game hadn't even come out yet. They won like 150.
Yeah.
I saw on social media they posted 150 awards, and I'm like, what is are we in the Twilight Zone? The thing hasn't come out. No one's played it.
Exactly. How can you win awards when your game isn't released yet or no one has played it? That's I got a thing about that. You can't win an award without a good product.
Yeah.
And that's not even just gaming. But about, I'd say 2-3 months in, I played from release on. Right after I moved up here, which was maybe January, February, I was like, all right, I know this is from a tabletop game named Cyberpunk. And I just Googled latest rule set of Cyberpunk. Boop, there was Cyberpunk Red. Sold out everywhere.
Yeah.
And the hunt began. We ended up tracking down, me and a friend of mine, we looked for like 2 weeks. And we ended up finding a retailer in Canada, I believe, that had a copy. And at the time, didn't have the money. So she ended up picking it up for me. Her name is Sev. She's awesome. And book got to me. Ended up downloading the PDF with it. I still don't remember how it came with it because I don't even think it was bits and mortar, but the book came with the PDF too. It was very weird because I recently tried to find it again. Couldn't. So I just bought it again on DriveThruRPG. But I told her, like, whenever we get a game going, you got first dibs. And I kept that promise even now. She's currently in my main game.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're one of those people that needs to have the book in your hands, right?
I definitely enjoy it a lot more. I was heavily in the use of D&D Beyond, and just I like flipping. All right, I like flipping through the book back and forth.
Yeah.
Like whenever I'm GMing, even though I have everything going online, I still have the physical book sitting right behind me at all times.
It grounds you to the moment because I don't know how you feel about playing online versus in person. But for me, I like playing online and in person. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, but there is something extra special about playing in person. It's an intangible specialness.
I agree. The only difficulty with doing it online, you can't really sell the physical cues to the people you're playing with to have them bounce off of it. Especially like me, no camera. My players can't really see when I'm doing a little grin or I'm, moving my body a certain way to try and tip them off to something that the character will be doing. And that does get in the way sometimes, but I've gotten to where I just narrate it like a book and they catch on pretty well. But in person, oh man, I've not been able to play an in person game since maybe 2018, and I'm
Oof.
aching for it again. I'm aching for it again so much.
Yeah, I get it, man. It's rough. It's rough finding. First of all, compared to the internet, it's global. You can find people literally anywhere. And then you're limited to like exactly your vicinity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if
And
you're
when
in
you're me,
yeah, you said you're in a rural area, right?
yep.
Yeah, so it's not easy pickings over there.
Yeah, I plan to get back to where I used to live as soon as the rent prices die down back down there.
Yeah, of course. Those are the things. So, did you guys eventually play?
It took an entire year.
An entire year to
An
play.
entire
So,
year.
from purchase of the book, and a year later, you guys started playing. Sev was in your game, right?
We started to play, got first session kind of done, then we didn't continue. The classic issues of scheduling,
Mhm.
anxiety, making sure folks were all together. And it wasn't until, to be honest, right before everything got crazy last year for me, that we actually pulled together a game. And I used getting paid. And I was like, all right, we're going to finally play this game. We're going to sit down and do this. Let's go. Slapped down getting paid. Everyone at the table except me didn't know how to play, except for Sev. And we went for it. And Sev wasn't even in those first games. And from then on, I just caught. And we've not stopped playing every week.
Wow, that's amazing. It's really cool how you have so many bad experiences previously, but you didn't learn your drive to be still like to be curious. You know, it didn't shy you away, right?
Yeah, I'm notoriously stubborn. And I was really wanting to play it. And I'm like, we're going to do this eventually. And
Yeah.
we ended up pulling it off.
Yeah, it's almost like you can taste a good group. You're like, it's there. I can almost taste like a good session, you know?
Mm-hmm. I got a good group of friends too to play with. They're really high role players. So I knew no matter what we were going to do, I was going to most likely laugh until I was hoarse. And I was right. We had no idea what we were doing, but we had a ball.
Wow, that's great. So, fast forward a little bit, you're playing some Cyberpunk. What compelled you to start making content about it?
Okay. For the year before I made the channel Dice, I had actually just made a different channel that I started up as a hobby. I had fully retired from Twitch. I used to actually make money, good enough money to live off of from Twitch.
Wow.
Ended up getting sick of it, got sick of how things were being there, people treating each other. I was like, I'm done. So wiped the slate clean, moved on, focused on my actual career. And I was like, you know what? I miss being able to work on things. I miss being able to have, just something each day to wake up to and just work on. So I made a little channel for an MMO, and it was a very niche part of a niche game. And it didn't really do well, but that taught me how to do shorts well, because it was right when YouTube was starting to fiddle around with shorts. And that went on for about a year. And last March, not this one, but the one before, I was like, I've always wanted to do a tabletop channel. I've put it off since 2017. Screw it. So I made it, and I was like, all right. I knew from my MMO channel that you had to build up a certain amount of watch hours to get monetization for streaming. So that was my goal. And so I threw together some shorts for, the DiceTTRPG channel, threw them up there without much thought because I was like, all right, if they get like 1 or 2 views, maybe I'll get 50-ish hours and just get a dent in the, I think it's 4,000 hours, I think. And I was like, I'll do that and we'll be set. And I finally got sick of the MMO at about, I think it was June of last year. And I was like, you know what? It's time. I want to go ahead and get my first review out. I had already been talking with a couple companies just on the down low, and I wanted to get into reviewing. That's what I wanted to do, and then eventually get into teaching. So I was like, what game can I talk about that's not Dungeons and Dragons? Because I view Dungeons and Dragons content as a very, very, I don't want to say bloated. That's a mean way of putting it. There's a lot. There's a lot of people, and it's hard to get noticed.
It's also hard to say something that hasn't already been said,
Exactly. Yes, I 100% agree. You can only do so much content in a single game before you start repeating what everybody else says.
Yeah.
And I knew doing anything with it would not really catch the way I want. I wanted to help people get into something new that wasn't already the most popular. And I just looked over my Cyberpunk Red core book, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. So reached over, did a full rundown for it. It was the first long video on my channel. I had done a quick guide on Tailspire movement before, but that was to help people I was GMing for.
Yeah.
So the Cyberpunk Red rundown video was the first one I really did. And I put that up there. It did all right. Like it was maybe 200 views in its first couple days. And I was pretty happy with that because this is going to sound weird. A video for me is successful if it breaks 100 views. I have no other criteria.
Well, first of all, you have to understand that it's proportional to how big the community is. The online Cyberpunk Red community is not going to be as vast as like Warhammer or Shadowrun or D&D. Those are a little bit more of common names, but Cyberpunk is growing, and we're all seeing the growth. And especially with stuff like Edge Runners comes out, we see a boost. The new Phantom Liberty DLC will come out, we'll see a boost. So people are out there wanting to get involved with Cyberpunk, but Cyberpunk suffers from what all RPGs suffer, which is the fear of trying something new.
Yes, I 100% agree. Whenever I made that review, I noticed that Easy Mode had been released, and I threw that up immediately as a short. And those two were really the first push of doing the tabletop for my channel, which I was bloody happy about how that turned out. And I agree, like, I have so many friends that are playing 5th edition or have even played since 4th and 3.5, some even original Pathfinder. They were asking for that year that I had the book, like, hey, how do you play? How do we play? How can we get involved in this? And I had no real easy, quick way to explain it to them because I wasn't really that experienced either. And I ended up saying, you know what? We're just going to do it this way. And I don't know, the moment that I just tried to reach across the aisle and I'm like, hey, if you want to give it a shot, come here. I kind of stepped into a perfect storm.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. There are people out there that do want to learn, about specific hobbies, and it's always great to have multiple people out there making content for Cyberpunk. It's always going to be a net benefit across the board for everybody.
Because I feel that if you restrict yourself to only one game, you're doing yourself no favors. Like I love Cyberpunk Red, but hell, what if I told you my channel initially, I was going to focus more on the Blade Runner RPG. Like that was my dream game when it came out.
Wow, really?
And yeah.
I haven't given it a shot. Is it a 2D20 or?
Okay, what it is, it's based off of what Free League Publishing calls the Year Zero engine. You will have 4 stats to your character. You have your A, B, C, D. D, D6. A, D12. And your goal is to roll a 6 or higher to get a success.
Okay.
And that's the
so it does
basic of the engine.
Got it. So it's always 6 up.
Okay.
And
this is the weird part about it. There's not really loot. There is very little mention of wealth. You have points that determine your wealth called Shinyan points. It is an investigative game. And long story short, instead of like, sessions or adventures, you have case files. And whenever you get assigned a case file, a countdown starts. And that countdown is governed by shifts. You have 4 shifts in a day, but you must rest 1 shift a day. And shifts can be changed by traveling, doing certain things, going to the LAPD headquarters to do research. And you're basically trying to find and retire a replicant or whatever you will. And if you take too long, the situation gets worse and worse and worse until failure.
I love that. I love that countdown system. That makes sense. So you basically tell your players, you can do 4 things in a day, but you do need one of those 4 things to be rest, or else I'm sure there's negatives and stuff. So
there is.
So that means you start somewhere. I'm the game master. You started somewhere. Now the next place you go is up to you. But remember, you have a finite amount of time and locations to go to. That's cool. I love that they leaned into the detective noir part of what Blade Runner is.
And this is where it gets even more in depth with it. There's 2 ways to progress in this game: humanity and promotion. And you can't gain one without losing something from the other.
Got it. So being promoted at what you do kills part of your humanity.
Exactly. Like, simply having empathy for somebody, you gain a point in humanity. Or you just do your job the way you're supposed to, despite the suffering of others, gain promotion.
Oh, got you. So they're exclusive from each other.
Yeah, be a cog in the wheel or be human. And that's the whole thing. That's why I love it. It's a real big look at humanity. And I'm always sold on that. Like, yeah, action's great, but I love anything having to do with what makes somebody human. And that's one of the things about it. Oh God, I forgot the name of the stat, but there is a stat they have. And when it reaches 0, you do break, almost like cyberpsychosis.
Gotcha. So what's different?
Well, if you're a replicant, because you can play either a human or a replicant, if you are a replicant, you go full Roy Batty.
Oh, and so you go cyber psycho, got to get put down.
Effectively, yes. They call for your retirement. And when that happens, there is a table you roll. Everything from you attacking the nearest person can happen, or you just simply laying down and waiting to die.
Oh, wow.
That can happen for you too as a human. The difference is after, I think it is a full 24 hours, you snap back to it.
Gotcha.
But it really weighs into that. And I'm trying to think of something else that's really, oh yeah. The coolest thing about the system to me is the initiative system. It's a deck of cards.
Oh, what? Not dice?
Not dice. You shuffle a deck of cards, deal, and whoever has the highest card going down goes first.
Highest card going down?
So you can go like straight from, king, then queen, just straight on down.
Okay.
So if you have a 2, you're the last in the initiative.
Oh, gotcha. So king, ace is the lowest, or is ace the highest?
You can say either way.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting.
And the reason why I like it is there's 2 variants of that rule. 1, you only deal once. Or 2, at the end of the initiative order, everybody hands their cards back, reshuffle, redeal.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah, it's always cool whenever new games, different game systems do things differently. But I got to say the the countdown system is inspirational, because in my Cyberpunk campaigns, I've always wanted it to feel like it's a living world and things are happening in the background. But it's also hard to gauge how much time we've been playing in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I barely can keep up with that using calendars and Foundry, and I still lose track of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had instances where I had like 6 sessions and it was only 1 day in game time. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Because these guys are out there and they're getting into gunfights all over the place. And then I reflect and I'm like, shouldn't they be exhausted? They've been fighting everywhere. There's smoke. They're inhaling gun smoke, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and when it comes to that in Blade Runner RPG, it is the same thing. You have all this stuff going down, and during that one little time of rest, that's when you have all your downtime stuff, including reaching out to people you know, meeting up with contacts, and actually resting. That's when you can have that growth time that people love about RPGs.
Yeah, and the downtime is important.
Whenever you're going in Cyberpunk, sometimes that can fall to the wayside because Cyberpunk's a pretty action-based game.
Yeah, totally. And but what I do enjoy about it is not actually the violence and all that. I mean, all that is fun, but it's everything people do to circumvent violence. I don't know if that's something that happens in your game where everyone's like, okay, since we could lose our lives, let's just try to be as smart as possible.
I've got half a team that's all for talking and the other half that is, you know what? Let's go in. So I have a half and half situation, and it leads to some fun stuff.
That's great. That's great. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody enjoys the game their own way. And it's good to have that kind of balance. I've had games where, you know, one guy is all about the numbers. He wants to do headshots. He built his character for headshots. And the other guy is just trying to chat everyone up. So you got to have a little bit for everybody, you know?
Yeah, and when it comes to folks like that who are building for optimization, I think I'm weird because not a single one of my players, none of them dodge bullets. Not a single one of them currently has a linear. Oh, no, I take it back. One has a linear frame now, but he doesn't really use it. So I have a team of people who went for the role play side of things much more than optimization. So I've always counted myself lucky with that because I've seen people play when they are going for broke and you have to use the hardened mooks and the hardened LTs. And I'm just like, I think I'm lucky, but I also think I'm weird.
I mean, being weird is part of you being interesting.
It gives me that ill perspective of like, all right, yeah, this is how you could do this. And then I have to stop and go, wait, how would somebody do this here if they're trying to blow everything up? Oh, one thing I do have a problem with, though, I have players who absolutely adore grenades.
Yeah, it's a big thing that goes on. Just remember, NPCs can jump out of the way with an athletics check. Sometimes I forget about that.
They keep catching people in cars and just in closed-in places. Yeah, I had an entire final boss fight pretty much fallen to pieces because they were just on the roof just dropping grenades. And I'm...
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
I once had an ambush set up where it was retribution because the characters had robbed a Merc bar. So like somewhere back then they were in a Merc bar, they got into a fight, and then one of them was like, I look in the register and I take whatever's in it, you know? There's like opportunity. Yeah. And I said, okay, fine. And in my head, I filed, okay, the owner's going to find out, check the cameras, put a hit out on them because you don't just come and rob their bar, you know? So that's what this was going to be. This was going to be a crazy ambush. Like van drifts, they open the van door and a guy's on a minigun.
Oh, no.
No. I know. I was like, this is it. I'm going to make like a homebrew minigun. It's going to have crazy stats and then I'll just add like normal guys. No other chat. Like the minigun is the big deal. You know what I mean? So it happens. They get ambushed. And wouldn't you know it, the players threw a grenade, gave the van a flat tire, and then they drove away and ran away.
Oh, no.
And I was like, I never accounted for them running away. I did not for 1 second think that they would just run away.
Oh, but don't you love it when they do those curveballs? I had a slightly similar situation. I made the mistake of putting an important NPC in front of my players before it was time to fight them, and they almost got him. Like they went for him. Do you want to hear this story? Because I don't want to take too much of the time.
What do you mean? This is your time. You're our guest.
Okay. Well, excuse me. Didn't mean to cough there. I was trying to cover it. What I do is whenever a character doesn't get killed by the team, they escape, I bring them back stronger. It's just what I do. I love doing it. So whenever these folks got through with getting paid, 4 of those cops survived. And so I gave them all promotions, put one even higher up. I think that was Easton. I did that. And I had him just being the ringleader of this group of corrupt cops. And I did a little bit of seeding for the upcoming Tales of the Red adventure I was wanting to run them through. So they were working for a NPC whose name I'm redacting because one of them may be listening, and their game is tomorrow, and I don't want them to hear it. Power flicker. Am I still here?
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
Okay, good.
Spoiler free.
Good. So on the rooftop across from the Ripper Dock that they actually work with and play with, some ukulele is his name, I put Easton. There was going to be a talk. Basically, they had their fixer, and that was going to be it. It was going to be a standoff that was going to be more of a face-down situation. In the street, I had the other 2 cops, I think it was Cardinale and Faris, and I keep wanting to call them Ghost, but their character's name is Smoke. Z's going to hate me for that. I always do that. But Smoke ended up sneaking up to the top. And whenever Smoke sees Easton, I was expecting a talk. Smoke was just there for blood. Smoke shows violence. And Smoke stepped through the door, triggered a flashbang. Smoke didn't care. Smoke charges, tries to tackle him off the roof. And I'm like, oh God, now I see what they're going to do, because it would have been a good 6-story fall. So I end up having Easton book it, just trying to run and get out of there. He gets down the staircase, and my lawman character, West, she's down there with an assault rifle, fires into him, auto fire.
Oh.
I lucked out. I completely lucked out. And it went from being cool standoff, almost Batman-esque style, to Looney Tunes of me trying to get them out of there. And a smoke grenade is lobbed into the police car where Faris and Cardinale are. They can't see. They're trying to pick up Easton. And then up top on the roof is Smoke.
Throwing grenades.
With 2 AP grenades.
Oh.
And it got close. And it's one of my biggest regrets in Cyberpunk Red, and Z does not let me live this down either. Z is the player of Smoke. The penalty that they had from the grenade themselves, it had gone away, and I was still doing -2s. So they were able to hit the cop car if I had not had those -2s. So I had kind of screwed her over. And to this day, they're like, hey, what about those grenades? Just every chance that Z gets.
Yeah, when Black Chrome came out, one of my players saw the shuriken grenades, and they were like, yeah, I'm going to need one of those, or 2 of those at least.
See, mine are wanting the K-Tech stuff. They love K-Tech.
Yeah, K-Tech's good. All that stuff is good as well. Yeah, that's cool. Well, yeah, my last session, we're actually finally bringing this campaign to an end. It's been so long to get to this finale, and it's a little bit more sentimental because the final big bad guy, it was a backstory villain to one of the other players in our group that passed away. So it was really rough on us because his character was part of his story was part of the campaign, the overarching campaign. So this is it. Like next session, it's done. We're done, and it's right at that last moment. But I feel like I kind of messed up, and I didn't make it dangerous enough. But when I was setting it up, I thought, oh man, these guys are gonna die. You know, this is really dangerous.
Yeah.
Does that ever happen to you, where you're just like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a crazy challenge, and then they just blow right past it?
Yeah, actually, that was 2 weeks ago whenever I had them go in, because they're currently doing Reaping the Reaper.
Oh,
they just went to Vertexes. And I was like, okay, this is a lot of biodrones. And I was really worried that, oh, okay, never mind. That was just my tablet going out. We're good. And I was really worried that they would end up getting in a bad spot. No, they did not. They fought like a well-oiled machine, and the Biodrome Plus was completely annihilated. I take a guess what? Our favorite weapon, grenade.
Grenade. Yeah.
Perfect grenade. Took out both of them at the same time, and that made me go from, okay, this is going to be difficult, they're going to get torn apart, to they are playing with these biodrones like they are nothing. There was a very funny moment. Ukulele, the medtech Ripper Doc we got, he knew there was one last one in a back room. He ended up taking a shotgun. He walked through. That biodrome was waiting to do a aimed shot. It was a held action. They fired. They ended up doing just maybe 2 points of damage. So we played it off like they just skint his ear tip off. He turns, one taps him with a shotgun. Just bam, slugs him, and he drops him in one hit due to crit damage.
Oh.
And I'm just sitting there with my arms in the air, like, why do I even try? You guys, I get so scared for y'all, but y'all walk through these encounters.
I know, man. I know. And like my characters are veterans. So like one of them has that Malorian arms pistol that's like 66 damage.
Oh.
And like they all have like high evasion from all the IP they've received. So I had all these ideas, one of them being like, okay, these are my elite enemies and they're all going to be equipped with the pop-up net launcher. And I'm going to use that to basically just disable some of them. And then the main bad guy, he can fire a flamethrower and an assault cannon at the same time in one turn. I'm like, these guys are screwed, this is going to be bad. They did so much damage off the bat that the enemies didn't have time for tactics. They had to just return damage. You know what I mean?
Yep. But whenever you started to say flamethrowers and nets, my eyes bugged out. That's why I started laughing. I'm like, oh my God, that is a slaughter.
I know. And I rolled a little bit poorly, but by turn 3, all the henchmen were dead. And the bad guy was like, and I had to wrap the session. So the bad guy picked up the VIP that they're trying to get, grabbed him, pulled him into another room, and I'm like, and that's where we're going to end the session. So they're going to go in that room and really mess him up. They've been saying in our Discord chats all the like things they're going to do to him in that room. It's crazy.
You're sitting there like, these people are scaring me at this point. What's going on?
I'm like, what am I going to put in that room? I got to put something in that room.
When in doubt, minds. When in doubt, just minds and prayer.
I hope they don't listen to this.
Oh yeah, don't worry. I'll keep your secrets. Just hold this until after the game happens.
No, well, I have some ideas. Where he's like truly, trying to do something, and but they are all in to like kill this guy. You know what I mean? It's personal. It's beyond personal.
Oh God! So it's going to be a nice final stand. I hope it goes well.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so too. But it's great. It's been good times with this crew of people. So, what was your last session like? Did we just talk about it?
Oh no, I've not talked about, like, are you talking about me as a player or me as a GM?
Either way, man.
I actually just had a session yesterday, just as a player. It's very rare I get to be a player, and yesterday gave me an ulcer. It's the best way to explain it.
Oh, jeez.
We were actually doing a final fight too, believe it or not. We were going after a Tiger Claw Cyber Psycho. And he had locked himself up in a construction zone. We only had 3 people after losing 1 player. And what basically happened is, thanks to my character Miser's rapport with Tiger Claws, just from me saving their tail once, basically set it up so we had some backup. We had 4 people.
Some Tiger Claws of some other Tiger Claws.
Because the one we're going after has already attacked people of his own, and so they were like, we got to get rid of this problem before he takes more of us out. So they worked with us.
Gotcha.
And what basically happened is, we get to the site. I had an idea, because when we got there, they let us know he's up top. He's destroyed the stairs. We don't know how to get to him. He's not coming down. So I'm like, all right.
Hold on, time out. How do you destroy the stairs?
He blew everything up.
Oh shit.
This guy, I believe at the end, Z let me know he had at least 12 different pieces of cyberware, including multiple things that went boom.
Oh Jesus.
But what ended up happening is I was like, all right, do we have a PA system? Any kind of audio? Because my character was a tech. So I was like, all right, let me get him down one way or another. Maybe I can tick him off. Maybe I can draw him out. And I had something that I knew could possibly work. So there was a truck in the middle of the yard. I was like, all right, cover me. And everybody moved up into position. I start running my tail across the clearing. Sure enough, held action. The moment he sees anybody, he takes a shot with an assault rifle. Ping! Hits me. 10 damage. I had SP12 because of tech upgraded laser light. Get to the truck. I do my thing. But as I'm doing my thing, chaos is apparently going on around me. What ended up happening is one, Boom, which was our solo, took a shot to the leg.
Oh my god.
Crit injury, broken leg.
Okay.
That was their first round.
Oh man.
It gets worse. Next turn comes around for June. Takes aim at one of the tiger claws. Bang! More crit damage. Another broken leg.
Oh,
we're all losing our mind because we're not hitting him. He's 3 stories up. And everybody's panicking. I'm still trying to do my thing because all I have is a heavy pistol. I'm not going to hit that guy. There's no way I'm going to be able to. Snowcat, who was our nomad, had a grapple gun. Takes themselves right up there to the 3rd floor, starts going around. June notices them. They try to stealth. He caught them. Yeah. Turns, auto fires. It's the first time I'd ever see an auto fire 4 happen.
Ooh.
36 points of damage. The light armor jack took it down. They were automatically in a bad place. I thought they died. I actually thought they were already dead. And I'm like, all right, great. So I have a solo with no leg and a dead nomad, and it's just me. I end up getting things working the way I want to. I back out. I grab a body near me for human shield, scoot back, and a tiger claw near me readies an EMP grenade. They chuck it. Crit fail.
Oh.
They get caught in the blast. They had a cyber leg.
Oh, no.
Take a guess. We got another person who can't move now.
So you're literally on your own.
Yep. It was me and 2 other tiger claws who could actually move around. And the way the GM had set it up is if June had walked into an area that he could hear the audio cue, he was most likely going to come down if it was something that would draw him down. Snowcat was still up there. Snowcat kept firing. Apparently, at some point, he ran out of ammo. So June dropped his assault rifle, which is one of the poor assault rifles, I think, from Black Chrome. What is it called? It's the 20-shot assault rifle.
Okay.
But he switched over to a heavy pistol, and then he jumps down. Once he's on the ground, Boom is in a certain spot. The Tiger Claw's in a certain spot. Snowcat's up above. The grenade rain begins.
The grenade rain.
Incendiaries, AP, EMP, and I am like, okay. And I'm trying to run across the field again to let the other Tiger Claws know, hey, he's out of ammo. He switched to a new gun. I didn't know he had dropped down because he was out of my line of sight.
Oh,
he was less than 10 feet from me.
Yeah, but you couldn't metagame it, though.
Oh, no, heck no.
Yeah.
And he was on the other side of the car from me. I didn't know he was there until he got on top of the car and rips the dang hood off trying to get to the radio inside. I have never ran so fast to get away from something because I knew he had wolvers and I'm not a melee fighter. I built the character to be focused on streetwise interrogation. So whenever you say you enjoy the avoiding combat by talking, we're people of the same kind. My tech is designed for that. I ran. I just straight ran. This guy is on fire. He is screaming. He is a cyber psycho. I don't want anything to do with him. So I get back over to where the tiger claw that has a dead leg is. And the way the GM is describing him, I'm catching on that he is on his last legs. I take the risk. I run right back, put the heavy pistol to him, start shooting. I get through once. He's still kicking. I'm starting to cry because I know he's going to turn on me. Yeah. Snowcat gets a lucky shot off, takes his hand off, sends the wolver through his head, kills him.
Oh, thank goodness.
It wasn't over. My GM is evil. apparently he started to have a meltdown inside of him due to the flashing coming from his chest. And I have a pursuit bouncer. I could have either ran or I could have taken a risk. And I was like, you know what? It's Cyberpunk. I'm going to take the risk. So I tried to deactivate whatever was happening inside of him with a shot from the microwaver and the pursuit security bouncer. And I had to hit the right number in a D11 roll. And I ended up doing it. I played it off. I acted like things were fine, but then I just muted my mic and I was like, oh my God, I was just breathing heavy, like, oh, well, that almost happened. So yeah,
God.
that was, I think I put holes in my armrests that day. Yeah, I did.
Well, that's a good fight, man. If that's how it goes.
It was nasty. It was nasty. But yeah, that's me being as a player in Cyberpunk. I love it, but I get so worried that I get too tactical with it. Like after GMing so much, by default, I enjoy GMing. Like people complain about being forever GMs. I'll take it. I love it. But I always worry as a player, I think too tactfully because I know a lot about how you can use the combat system and I don't want to overdo it. But in that case, I was like, you know what? I could double action run, but that ain't fun.
Yeah, no, of course. You got to risk it for the biscuit. It's Cyberpunk, style over substance.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point of it all, because the idea is you did that and you still survived, you know, even though you did all those risky things. That's the legend. You got to make a legend for yourself.
I had to do something because I literally did not shoot a single time that thing until he was on the ground. There was like, I think, 7 rounds of combat where I didn't even fire a bullet. And I felt terrible for that.
Yeah, no, but that's okay. That's totally fine. It's funny, you know, you just don't know what to expect when you're playing. I've talked about it before on my channel, but I did a live stream recently for this piece of art back here, if you guys haven't seen it. But we talked about, you know, things that have gone on in our games. In one of my previous games, the players were asking if there were any like security vehicles at the current nomad camp that they were in. And I thought to myself, like, yeah, I mean, there's security here. Of course, they're going to have some kind of vehicles. Let me see how many vehicles are in the dock. I roll a D6 and it comes up 1. So I'm like, okay, you know, they're all out on patrol. There's only 1 vehicle. I'll roll a D10 to figure out what kind of quality it is. And I rolled a 10. So let me ask you, what do you think the 1 security vehicle for like a nomad encampment would be like if it's a 10 quality, top quality?
Oh, shoot. Is this pre or post Black Chrome?
This is pre-Black Chrome.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be raw either.
I can't even really guess it. I'm of course going to think of something similar to a Humvee at that point, something that's chunky.
Yeah, I went APC.
Oh.
So I'm like, it's a 10, you know, I don't think these guys are going to have a tank on hand. So what's like below a tank? Like a heavy armored personnel carrier. It has their security emblem on it, and it's got a big gun turret. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. I've got pictures in my head already about what that thing could look like. That is, well, wait, what did they do?
So look, all he asked was like, is there a vehicle? And I said, yeah, there is, and it's an APC. And then they were all like, okay, so we're not playing any other game other than get the APC today.
Oh no.
There's no other game. We're not chatting with people. We're not shooting boosters. We're getting the APC. And they all agreed. And when it's 4-on-1 agreeing on something, I'm just like, oh shit. I like gulped and I'm like, what's gonna happen? So
you brought this on yourself.
I did. And Cyberpunk is a game of skill. So if you're skilled at things, you're going to be able to succeed. So of course they got the APC. Of course they did. But I was like, it doesn't have ammo. And they're like, is there ammo around? I rolled for it. No, there's no ammo around. The guy says he'll rent it out to you, but you got to figure out the ammo. So they're like, all right, now we're just playing the get the ammo for the APC game. That's like all they cared about. They had no other motivations for anything, but they wanted ammo in that gun. So of course,
You just picture one of your players just in the actual turret, just like spinning it around, pulling the trigger, praying that a bullet will manifest, just so they can see something go boom.
So I mean, yeah, that's it. They wanted to that power fantasy of having an APC with a gun on it in a rural area where it's pretty lawless. Okay, it's like lawless, open Texas. So they have it. They got ammo from another nomad encampment of soldiers. They traded with them, and now they have ammo. But an amazing thing happened after that, because then they realized that this thing was loud and it sticks out like a sore thumb. Like bandits are like, ooh, that would be nice if we could have that thing. It looks like it's by itself. There isn't like a convoy with it. Maybe we can, get it. And so
go to Jackhead.
Yeah, and now this thing that they fought so hard for, which they did do cool stuff with it for sure, because I had to let them do it. It only makes sense. But at the same time, now they're arguing about whether they should keep it or not, because they're like, this thing is just a liability, man. And that was the beauty of it. It was like, I gave them something that anybody else would have been like, dude, are you crazy? You can't give them. This is like session 2 and they have an APC. How is this possible? But it actually worked out in the end, because they were like, we kind of got to drop this thing off and let it go. So after they had their fun with it, they brought it back. And the people were like, dude, what the hell? We've been looking for this thing. Like, they just steal it. And they're like, what do you mean? We brought it back. It was assigned to us. And like, they couldn't really argue because they brought it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm very happy they didn't steal it. I automatically thought they were going to try to steal it.
Yeah, they were going to try to sell it. They were going to try to steal it. They were going to try to dump it. I mean, they went through all kinds of scenarios.
Oh, man. And I can just picture them realizing, hey, that dust cloud's kind of getting closer. Is there a storm forecasted? Oh, those are cars. Hey, they're coming our way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, let's get back to the camp. No. And they just book it.
Yeah, and like those things are loud. It's a giant turbo diesel engine. If it's coming down the road, that's not like a Toyota Prius,
Yeah, I've been by them. I've been by them more than once. And yeah, when they're coming your way.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard big trucks before. They're super loud, so I'm sure it's similar.
You can feel it in your feet.
Oh, the ground rumbles on those tracks, huh?
Little bit. Even the few times I've been by them, it's that's an intimidating piece of machinery. So that out in the middle of rural areas, I'm picturing the desert out in the Badlands. Even with that, they're making a mess. Even just of the terrain, they're going to stick out like crazy. Even if it's painted for camo, they're not going to be subtle. So yeah. I just find it so funny. They're like, no, we don't need this like we thought we would. Take it back.
No, there was like legitimate arguments. Like there was the camp of, we tried really hard to get this, we got to keep it. And then there was the extreme of, this is a liability. I don't want to die because of this thing.
I don't think I've had that situation yet in one of my games. I'm trying to think, because the closest thing I've had to that where something just sticks out is Cristobal's linear frame, but that's just because him trying to stealth with it versus the pneumatic sounds. That's nothing compared to a bloody APC.
Yeah. It's wild, but that taught me a big lesson where it's like, you don't have to always say no. I've heard some game masters say like, learn to say no to your players, but I think that's yeah, for sure, there's things to say no about, but there's also the challenges of saying yes and then trying to figure a way to work around it, not to circumvent it, because then what's the point? Why did you give it to them if you're just gonna, try to counter it right away? Let them have their fun, but let them work for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I fully agree, because I'm a GM that actually rolls in the open. Like, I want to see the randomness of what happens just as much as everyone else.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can give you some crazy results. And to give the players something and then to automatically think of a way to screw them out of it, it's just not my personal style. Because if they have something awesome fall into their hands, like a microwaver, and they use it to shut down a big fight that you might have planned for months, well, that's just your players being smart. And they should get bloody rewarded for that.
Yeah, that's their agency, you know, that's them making a
Mhm.
decision and making a difference. And if you feel like that's a challenge to you, then you're not really, your perspective's a little bit wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're being an adversarial GM, which some people may dig it, but often or not, that can make for a very rough and sometimes even hostile table where it just becomes versus. It doesn't become a. If people want that kind of atmosphere, I can name some war games.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, those are cutthroat. Then they're completely different. The vibe's completely different.
Hmm.
Yeah. You know, it's funny though, every now and then you see like the exception to the rule. I haven't really watched a lot of Dimension 20. What's his name? Mulligan something.
Brandon Lee Mulligan.
Brandon Lee Mulligan. I've seen some like clips and stuff on TikTok with him, and he does take on like an adversarial GM role, but for some reason it's not like stemmed from malice. It's more of like this is how we play the game because it's fun when I'm the adversary.
I think that comes down to the fact that his players trust him and they know he's not there to screw him over. He's there to give them that challenge. I mean, I've never watched an episode of Dimension 20,
Yeah.
but just hearing that explained that way, it definitely is the fact that the players know, okay, he's not here to, you know, rip us all in half so he can laugh about it later. No, he's picking a fight. Let's bring the heat.
Yeah, exactly. Let's bring the heat. Let's make it a challenge. And if somebody dies, like you you don't really want anyone to die, but you want the threat of death to be there.
Yes, that's so hard to do because you even for me, like me personally, I don't mind losing a character if I'm playing as a player
Me too.
because I believe in having a backup. I have a backup lawman ready to go. Um, but for some people, they get really, really attached to their characters. They really take on the part. And you as a GM, even if you're new to it, even if you're 20 years in, you do keep that in the back of your mind that if they lose this character, they could quit the game. They could be bad for them. And while you do want to challenge them, you don't want to take away the threat of death because without threat of death in a game, a lot of the weight and reward kind of goes with it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like a metaphor for real life, you know, like because our time here is finite, that's what makes it special.
Hmm.
And it's the same thing for your characters. Their time in the game is finite and their life might be cut short, but it's about the life that they live. That's why that Edge Runners anime is so good because it encapsulates that entire thing. It's not just like another cyberpunk show. It really encapsulated what it means to live in the Mike Pondsmith, Artel Storian game cyberpunk universe.
You're not having some long story over decades. You're having a moment. And if you don't live in the moment, well, you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff. You never know when, well, you never know either you're going to screw up or if someone else is going to make the move for you.
Yeah, 1 minute you're at a futuristic nightclub with your buddies, drinking Smash, reminiscing about the job that you just did where you scored a bunch of money. And then at the end of the maze is a bunch of Militech guys blasting you while you have this like crazy exoskeleton on you. And that's the end.
Hmm.
It's nuts. It's
It
nuts.
sneaks up too. It starts a chain reaction. You never realize the end's getting closer faster than you expect.
Yeah. 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 So anyway, that whole essence is what makes the game so fun to me. When I'm playing with my buddies, I try to tap into that, and I found that we found more fun in trying to tap in on that human element of you're here right now in this place, and this is your surrounding. What do you do? Forget about the entire universe and Night City and the police and all that. Where you're here right now, live right now.
Whenever I started to GM for Cyberpunk Red, I worried way too much about knowing everything I could about stuff from 2013 on, and I let that initial anxiety get to me. It's what held me off from playing for a while too. And it was only when we actually started playing and I got them sit it down. Wow, great verbiage for me. I got them seated down with getting paid, and it quickly became just about these 4 people just trying to survive and get by. And it made that knowing everything wasn't a big deal anymore. I just need to know what the heck these people were going to try to do to get by. And it changed my view of it, because going from D&D to Cyberpunk Red, the hardest part was the first step, because it's daunting. It's a jump for even more than me. I've heard this from multiple people. They're afraid of how in-depth things can be. They're worried about not knowing the right bit of lore and getting something wrong. And I have to now tell them, like, don't worry about it. You got your character, you got your life path, and just figure out how you're going to get a meal today.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
Just trying to figure out how to get a bite to eat can lead to a hell of a story. Just for something so simple, just from the way the world's designed. You ain't got to worry about something that happened 50 years ago. Worry about what's happening in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like there's something you need. There's something that you want. Now, how do you get it? Do you fight for it? Do you steal it? Do you negotiate for it? Do you trade? I mean, all these things are valid and they all work, and some of them are easier than other ones. You get to a place and you're like, oh yeah, I'll never have to pull out my weapon here. I know exactly how to navigate this area and get the thing that we need, and it will be minimal effort. And that's the beauty of it. That's like the essence of how free the characters feel when they get somewhere. They're fearless. They're like, I'll go anywhere, any place, because I got my character and I have all these skills and talents and I'm living on the edge. So there's no fear.
It's the best way to put it. I can't even think of a better way to put it. I was going to say something about weapons and all that, but no, that's just the best way to lay it out.
Yeah, the weapons are that's the weapons and stuff are cool. Like, don't get me wrong, Cyberpunk is nothing without the chrome and the weapons and the aesthetics of the anime aesthetics of like ninjas and all that stuff. That's all peak anime or peak Cyberpunk. But there's like another part of that, another layer to the onion that goes deeper, and it's like the humanity of it. You know?
Yep. And going back to what I said earlier about what I liked about Blade Runner RPG, it's the same thing. I mean, the whole prospect of Cyberpunk is the ever-encroaching amount that people will change themselves, upgrade themselves, sculpt themselves. And all in all, while they're doing that, they're chipping away at their humanity. And while cyberpsychosis is, of course, the main thing that's always going to come up as people do that to themselves, for the people who aren't susceptible to that, they still are turning themselves into something that they're not. They're not being just human. And how much goes away until they really are just that numb to it? They might not be crazy, but where does the line get drawn? When do people start doing things that, quite literally, even if they're not going to have C-SWAT come down on them, what's that going to do for their reputation? What's that going to do for how they wake up the next day? It turns into a mess. So it's good to have people who are able to see, like, okay, maybe dropping that grenade onto the street was a bad idea.
In broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
In front of the police station.
Took out 2 people.
Oh gosh, man. Well, you know, another part of humanity is meeting people, meeting really cool people. And I'm glad I met you, man. And I'm glad that you have made the content that you're making. I wish you nothing but success and happiness. And I would love to continue to connect with you in this journey of yours. So thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. This has been pretty cool. It was the first time I've done something like this, and yeah, I'm thankful. And well, this has been more than humbling too.
It won't be the last, that's for sure. So make sure, let's tell everybody exactly where they can find you, how they can access everything that you do, and then we'll wrap things up.
The easiest way to find me is, of course, here on YouTube. DiceTTRPG is all you have to search up. That's even the handle on here. If you want to find me on Twitter, same exact thing. I keep it consistent. If you want to find me, DiceTTRPG. There we go.
And you have the Patreon as well, patreon.com.
I've actually not even published that yet. I've been sneaking on that. That was supposed to be popped out today, but I didn't get it quite ready. That's coming soon.
Oh, it's coming soon.
Hopefully,
Well,
hopefully by the end of this weekend.
I'm looking forward to be one of your first supporters.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. And folks, if you want to find my stuff, the Discord link is in the description below. Join our Discord at JonJonTheWise, everywhere that we have social media. And of course, if you're listening to this podcast, go to YouTube, find me on YouTube, subscribe to JonJonTheWise. I got all kinds of videos on there. And always remember to buy your dice from NFIL, D10s by NFIL. I'll have the affiliate link. Go through there and I'll get a little bit of a kickback from the sale. And of course, last but not least, my Patreon, patreon.com/JonJonTheWise. That's how you can support me in other ways. I appreciate all the other support I get from the community. And make sure you go support Dice and other content creators. And let's grow this community and positivity.
Take care, everyone.
Take care. See you guys on the next one. Bye.